Unfinished Business. This is the podcast where we get to have candid conversations about what it really looks like to build a business from the ground up, how success gets defined along the way, the lessons that it takes us all to get here, and the work that is never quite finished. So today's conversation is about confidence and transformation and what it looks like to build a business in one of the fastest growing and maybe often misunderstood industries right now, which is the world of aesthetics. But beyond the treatments and procedures, what I'm really interested in is the person behind this business, what it's been like for her to grow a brand, build trust with people, and help people feel more confident in themselves while navigating an industry that's always changing. Today, I'm joined by Cassandra Markham, who is the owner of Bella Luna by Beautiful You Aesthetics, a medical aesthetics practice in Amarillo, offering everything from injectables to skin rejuvenation, laser treatments, wellness services, HRT, and weight loss. So, Cassandra, that is a ton of stuff, but I'm so excited to have this conversation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. Hopefully you're going to help us demystify all of these treatments that keep us radiant and glowing. So I want to start with this. Let's talk about what you were doing before you've built this business and now expanded to what is now Bella Luna by Beautiful You.
So before I started this business, I spent 17 years in BSA hospital. I worked in the ICU there. I worked in the OR there. I worked as a sedation nurse there. Just kind of the experiences that shaped me both professionally and personally. Those years really taught me about precision, patient safety, compassion, especially the importance of listening to people during their vulnerable moments. I also spent some time working plastics, which that's where I was kind of introduced to a different side of medicine. And then that blended science provided an artistry, confidence, and transformation. And that really clicked for me because as a child, I was heavy into art and painting and sculptures and stuff like that. So it was applying medicine at the same time, it was applying the artistic ability inside of it. So the creative aspect was really what drew me in, kind of fine tuning everything.
Yeah, I've never thought about that as artistry, but what an interesting way to look at that. I mean, it is, and it's mind boggling the things that can be done today. So I'm excited to learn more about that. But go back into a little bit of that season. You said it shaped you. These are the things that you learned, precision and compassion. Those are the things that type to shape you. What was the biggest lesson, do you think, personally, that you learned during that time, that season of your life?
That we're all human. We all have needs that need to be met. And when you come at them with more of an open heart, it's a little bit more fulfilling in that respect that you have for human life.
In caring for patients, what does having an open heart look like for you? I mean, kind of going back to who you started out as to you just recently, and you can announce that just recently got your next level. So I'll let you share with what that journey was like. But yeah, tell me how you've morphed. Like, what does patient care look like to you today?
Well, most of the time, what you don't understand is that a lot of people just want to be heard, and a lot of people are never heard, not truly heard. And so, kind of how my passion has come into this is that, especially like with treatments and stuff like that, I explored because of my own passions. And I realized that I wasn't alone in my concerns that had surrounded me in my health journey, specifically on the hormone aspect of it. I kind of dove deep into that because I was one of those patients that I felt like I wasn't being heard and just put off to the side as though it was just part of aging as a woman. And this is just a way that I'm going to have to cope with it. And that really upset me because there should be a way around it. I mean, there's a reason that we have modern medicine today. And so understanding that created a deeper connection for me to my patients, I think, because it allowed me to connect with them on a soul level of I genuinely cared and I wanted to hear their story and then help fix what I could when I could. So
Can you share a little bit about that experience? Because I too find myself learning a little bit more about that space as you age, and everyone has a desire to age well, I think. And there are so many things that we can do to make that process a little bit more enjoyable. But quite frankly, I was horrified at the words perimenopause and menopause. I mean, everything that you always hear as a woman is scary, and it sounds terrible and it sounds like life is over. But talk to me a little bit about your journey with that and what are some commonalities that you're hearing women say that inspires you to try to, come up with solutions that can help?
Sure. So I was 33 whenever I kind of started going through a hormone shift after my babies. I had the worst acne. I felt like I was labile. I was fluctuating all the time. I no longer had sexual drive. And at 33, that's huge. So I made an appointment one day with my OB and asked her to check some things out. And then come to find out, I was deficient in a lot of things. My hormones just weren't there. My testosterone was almost non existent. And I felt that I was either up all night or I was tired all the time. The brain fog was huge. And so once we kind of discussed my options, I found one that I felt would work best for me and my plan. And so she put me on that. But I felt like it just, I don't know, like something was still just kind of missing with it. And so then I started kind of investigating what all that meant and plugging it all in. Like it worked great for a little bit and then it just wasn't working for me anymore. So then I started kind of a deeper dive into it and then really found how to plug in certain things. And, there was this black box warning on hormone replacement therapy for, gosh, like 20 years, which they've just now released and lifted. Come to find out, it's not all what people thought it was. So it's much more beneficial than what was generally given to the public at the time.
Can you share why was that?
I think they believed that because of the estrogen content that it potentially had harmful side effects with cancer, especially those that were estrogen induced. And so obviously you've got to have a good close monitoring of lab work and stuff like that just to make sure we're still in the clear, but it's relatively safe as long as you're doing it within your parameters that are given to you on guidelines.
Why is estrogen so important, particularly for longevity?
Well, estrogen controls many things. It helps if you're having like hot flashes and stuff like that, then more than likely your estrogen's probably a little bit on the low side. And so you're fluctuating through all of that. You don't realize how much your ovaries control. For men, it's the testicles. For women, it's the ovaries. And you just really don't realize how much you're dependent on those until either you don't have them or they're non functioning. And so just as a whole, it controls the whole thing.
I guess in your own journey, when you started noticing that plugging in, as you say, these different elements that can make this process a little a little better, what did you start noticing in your own health journey?
That I felt better. I had more energy. I had sexual desire again. I slept better. My brain fog was lifted. It was wild to me, the changes that occurred and just feeling more like myself. Like I could play with my children. I could go out on adventures and travel and still have all the energy to do all that. And so that made a huge difference for me. And so here I am now at almost 40 and I'm like, I don't think I could ever give it up now.
I mean, to your point, I mean, that's how that is very young to be symptomatic in that and having, a deficiency in it. I'm sure it was life altering. How does that, Cassandra, how does all of this relate to aesthetics? I mean, what ultimately, it sounds to me like this was a big part of what you wanted to offer something else, but how did you start growing into wanting to, build a business around this and particularly aesthetics?
I wanted to create a brand, my own brand that revolved around my artistry, I guess, because I do things a little bit differently than most people and how I fine tune things. Um, Filler specifically has a certain texture and fluidity about it. And if you really know the tissue, then you can kind of plug in different things and manipulate that tissue into creating that kind of, I guess, airbrushed effect and smoothing it all out. So you're providing the volume, then you're contouring, then you're kind of creating where you're deficient in your bone structure due to the aging process, and then fine tuning all of it depending on where you're at in the tissue. And so there'll be an area that usually most injectors will only do one type of filler. And sometimes I'll do 3 different types of filler in that specific area because it gives me the outcome that is desired by the patient and myself. So it's just kind of fine tuning that area. Different types of filler react differently within the tissue. And so really it's just dependent on the patient's outcome. Like, do I need a biostimulator? Do I need one that's a little bit more firm? Do I need one that's a little bit more soft? Do I need one that's in the middle? It's just kind of manipulating that in there to truly achieve what I need out of it. Like, what's the patient's ultimate goal? I don't want it to be my vision because I'm not the one who has to walk around and live with it. I want it to be their vision, and I want it to be more of a natural respect for their natural anatomy, their natural beauty. I'm not trying to change who they are. I'm just trying to enhance the beauty within them that makes them feel more confident in themselves.
In your experience so far, what are the things that those enhancements make a difference to them? And what do you notice in your patients afterward?
Confidence and true respect on their self image. Confidence usually starts long before treatment and skincare. So I'm just trying to enhance their natural confidence, but at the same time, it's not really defining their worth. The goal isn't perfection, it's to help them feel more comfortable, refreshed, more aligned with themselves. When you feel good on the inside, you feel good on the outside, and vice versa. It kind of goes hand in hand with each other. One thing I've learned is that confidence looks different for everyone. So for some, it's clearing acne that they've struggled with for years. For others, it's restoring volume after weight loss, improving their skin texture, addressing hormone changes, or just simply taking time to chill, take a moment for themselves to relax and the stress of the world today, even if it's an hour break, a facial or massage, any of that stuff just kind of gives you a reset button.
Do you think women come to you with a vision, or do you think that that's a process? Like when the patient first enters the room, what are the most common concerns that they come to you with? And then how is that vision scoped between the two of you?
Usually, I ask them to tell me a little bit about themselves whenever people are talking to me. They're giving me their natural form of expression. So I'm watching everything. I'm watching, how are you moving your face, your muscles? Do you pull from one side to the other more so than not? A lot of people talk out of one side of their face that they don't notice than they do the
Really?
other. I am guilty as charged as well. And so you can kind of use toxins specifically to soften that so it doesn't appear as noticeable to one person. But a lot of times I get them to talk about themselves. What do they enjoy? Are they outside? I don't want to do certain things if they're outside all the time because then it's going to hurt more than it's going to help. Lasers are a prime example. And then I want to know what their goal is. So I give them a mirror and I'm like, okay, tell me two things. Pick out two things that if you could change, what bothers you the most? And a lot of times we can start there. Now, if they're wanting me to make that decision for them and then start as a whole, we go over that too, because I don't want to just pick somebody apart. I want to know what upsets them most about their image. And then we can start there and then branch out. Are we wanting to fix everything as a whole, or are we wanting to go in baby steps? Like, what's that look like to them? It's different for every single person. The great thing about experience is you can customize, not just follow some cookie cutter mapping that somebody else provided for you. I want people to remember how I made them feel and then hold those standards. I feel like I've gotten more appreciation from doing this and changing people's lives on an emotional level than I ever did on a physical level in the hospital. Not necessarily because one isn't important over the other. It's all about, I guess, perception in a way. Because when you feel good emotionally, then you feel good physically a lot of the time. So it's more of an emotional barrier that kind of helps that patient or client to come into themselves, prioritizing how their emotional well-being contributes.
Yeah. I've never thought about that. I mean, but do you see physical changes in their health as a result of this? That's such an interesting concept. I've never heard anyone break that down before.
Well, take for example, a patient that's in the hospital and they're going through some ailment, right? And how's their mentality? Because I promise you, after 17 years of being in the hospital, mental stability makes the biggest difference in your recovery. Because if you don't have a strong mind to get past it and through it, then your physical body doesn't follow. So if you don't feel like you're going to be doing well or you're at a mental block, then that blocks the physical just as much. That is the one thing I learned that is tried and true within the hospital.
So there's a big correlation there. Is there I mean, obviously without giving, names away or anything, but is there a patient story that comes to mind that you can share?
So there's a patient that she and I talked. She'd been going to another injector for a really long time. And then she finally came and saw me and said, I decided to switch mainly because I felt like I wasn't being heard. And I just want somebody to listen to what my requests are, not what they feel like it should be. Because I felt like everything was too heavy or I didn't have any form of expression. And so she and I talked and I asked her again to pick out two things that bothered her the most. And she gave two of them to me. She felt like she was just kind of saggy. She felt like everything just kind of bogged her down. And then she had these deep inset wrinkles within her forehead that she wanted to get rid of. She felt like those just really aged her. But she wasn't quite ready for filler yet. I did a whole facial analysis and we decided to go with a different type of neurotoxin than what she was used to. And then I mapped her completely different because she wanted range of motion in her eyebrows, but in a way that was aesthetically pleasing as well.
Hmm.
So rather than making
And
her
that's
heavy,
possible?
it's possible. And
Okay.
so rather than making her frozen all the way across, we gave her some form of expression while also minimizing all of those wrinkles. And we kind of went from upper face, mid face, lower face, and the neck. And she was like, I don't know about this, Cass. And I said, okay, let's take a moment and then truly listen to hear yourself, what you're saying and what you want. So this is what my plan is for you. If you hate it, I'll take full accountability. But if you love it, I want to hear from you in 2 weeks what you thought of it. Either way, I want to hear from you. You can call me in 2 weeks and cuss me out 2 ways a Sunday, or you can call me in 2 weeks and tell me how much you love me. One or the other. It's perfectly fine. I'll accept either. And so she said, okay, well, we'll do that. And then I did everything to plan. And then literally in 2 weeks, she called me and said, I'm singing your praises to everybody. You're the most fantastic person in the whole world. And I'm really glad I listened to you. This is what I wanted. And so that made me feel really good. I felt like I changed her life in a positive way. And in turn, she changed mine in a positive way. It made me feel really good as much as I think it made her feel really good.
Yeah. So how I mean, you said experience, and so, you've done many by this
Yeah.
point. All that's going through my mind right now is, like, what a vast amount of trust do you have to build with someone to essentially and I love the way that you phrased it, like, artistry, like, reconstruct things
Yeah.
in their face. I can imagine this woman's nerves. I can imagine, if she had been going to a provider that she felt like she wasn't heard, and then all of a sudden she's gonna take the leap of faith to trust someone. I can't even imagine what that experience on the other side must have been in that waiting period of just did she describe any of that to you?
No, I wish she would have, but no. I mean, I will never take that for granted. It does take a strong sense of trust with your person. And I hope that I am able to give that to them just in our natural conversation. And that's literally why I want them to tell me a little bit about themselves, not only because I'm assessing, evaluating, but I'm also hearing them. And then we're forming some sort of a bond, so to speak. Because if you think about it, you see your hairdresser all the time. If you go and get waxed, you see your wax girl all the time. If you go and get lashes done or your nails, all of those, you're building a friendship. I have a great relationship with both my nail technician and my lash lady. I've seen them for the 10 years consistently every 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So you kind of build this relationship with them and it's a unspoken friendship, so to speak.
Kind of a follow-up to that, what do you think clients emotionally need when they walk through your door? What is it that you're offering that makes you different?
Friendship. I want to make it fun. I want to have fun doing it. I want to build your confidence. I want to build, I guess, some type of loyalty to each other. When I know my patient, then I can truly customize what their goal is, natural respect to their anatomy. I've been with them long enough. I know, like, there are some patients where I'm a little bit more cautious just because I'm unsure of just how they're going to react. And once I kind of get to play with your face a little bit and we learn from each other, then I can really customize that outcome that you're wanting. There are some patients that it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to nail it the first time. You know what I mean? There's a certain level of respect that goes into that because I don't want to drop a brow or cause anything. Some people, the way they pull, you think it's going to be one way and it's completely different the other way. And so those patients that are complicated that bounce around don't ever really like their outcomes because they're not allowing somebody to really get to know their anatomy because not every
Well,
one
that's
person is the same.
yeah, that's such a fair point. So to that, what is some of the reasons, or like common reasons that people hop around?
Budget is the biggest thing, which is completely understandable. It's an investment. You've got to do what's right for you in the end, you know. A lot of patients, that's really the biggest thing is budget.
But more times than not, what you're saying is the people that tend to do that at some point hit an experience that they're not very happy with.
Right.
That's what
I
I'm
do
kind of
have a
hearing you say.
patient. She's very well known for jumping around to whatever the best deal is, and I get it. I do. But every time she comes back to see me, it's always for a correction that somebody else did. And she's like, nobody ever does it the way that you do, Cass. I don't know that it's necessarily bad on that injector. I think she's just kind of a complicated case. And so I've gotten to know her face a little bit because she's been with me for a while. But when she does go off and shop around and she comes back literally within 3 to 4 weeks and she's like, fix it. So anyway, it kind of just makes it difficult for that injector when you're not able to truly recognize and get to know their anatomy. Because again, it's no one cookie cutter. It's very complex on some people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, obviously the provider matters. Let's talk to the person that has never tried any of this, that might be curious, but still a little intimidated. When selecting a provider, what are your suggestions in terms of red flag, green flags of I feel safe enough to explore?
Listening, communication, that's the biggest thing. Again, tell me about yourself. What are your goals? What are you wanting? Are you wanting movement? Are you not wanting movement? Some people want to still be able to form natural expression, but they want to minimize the wrinkle itself so that they can prevent further collagen breakdown so it's not as deep and set, more along the lines of an aging gracefully kind of respect where you're still able to keep your smile lines or anything of that nature, but minimize it so that the damage isn't as extensive. Like, say I have somebody who is the very first time, I'm going to go light on them and still give them some form of expression because this is all new to them. You just throw them into the ring and go all crazy with it, then most of the time they're gonna be displeased because it's a shock factor to them and everyone else around them. So you wanna do everything from a natural and subtle approach and then just kind of build on that. And you can keep it that way for as long as you want to. Really, it's just about the patient. Like what are their desires and their needs? Gotta start
Sure.
somewhere, right?
Can you debunk some myths? Online is so confusing because you hear one camp of people saying that it's great, it's actually going to prevent aging. You hear another camp that's saying these chemicals are terrible. You're making things far worse down the line. What's the truth?
Well, kind of depends on where you're getting it all from. Are you getting it from a reputable source? Are you getting it from a non reputable source? That's the biggest difference. A lot of times, these experiences that you see in the magazines and news channels and stuff like that is because they're getting their neurotoxin from someplace that they shouldn't. And it's mixed with something that shouldn't be there because it's cheaper. You know, where's your product coming from? Is it coming from someplace that's super cheap and something that shouldn't be injected into the skin? Because a lot of times that's what's happening is they're getting it from someplace they shouldn't.
So be leery of the deals. Is that what you're telling us?
Well, I mean, to an extent, if it's too good to be true, more often than not, it probably is. It's expensive for me just as much as it's expensive for you.
What do you think most people misunderstand about aesthetics today versus maybe 10 years ago, let's say?
Well, when I started in plastics in 2014, we treated way differently than we do today. You only did the crow's feet and the forehead and in between the eyes, the glabella. You didn't treat anywhere else, or sometimes you would treat for excessive sweat glands or something like that. But you didn't go below the eyes, period, ever. So we would just go in, put where we thought it should go, and call it good. Now, even in plastics, if you'll pay attention, your facelifts are looking better, more of a non invasive approach on some of that stuff, less cuts. They have really explored the anatomy of people's face and structure. They're truly customizing it now, and you can use it in all kinds of different areas. I mean, we even use Botox to fix bladder spasms and stuff like that. I don't, but in medical, they do that. They use Botox for a lot of different things. Same thing with filler, you're contouring one's face. People are paying attention more now about where it's put, not just the generalized area, but where you put it and how you get it there. The delivery of everything is completely different because we understand facial anatomy a lot more than we did. I don't want to say we didn't understand it back then, but we're paying better attention now to really customize and make that specific to that patient.
I want to play devil's advocate for a second. When things go wrong, how do you go about correcting a mistake? I mean, it sounds to me like what you're saying is nothing's hopeless, whereas maybe before you had to live with a bad outcome.
Yes. Like with talks and stuff like that, you can tox the other side to bring it down if somebody messed up one side over the other. With filler, you can dissolve it. But back in the day, whenever somebody really didn't like something around their mouth and they just felt like they had like these lines around their mouth and it just felt kind of boggy, that's where they would put filler. They wouldn't think about putting it on back here, um, in the cheeks to lift the mid face first, or in the piriform to lift that. They just filled in that area and called it good. So then over time, it just got really boggy. So you're not filling in the natural structure of the face. You're just filling in the problem. And so that just ends up weighing it all down. So you want to start mid face and back just to revolumize where that's fallen, especially those in weight loss journeys. They've lost the fatty part of their face. And so everything's just kind of hanging down. So you need to restore that fat pad, so to speak, that is part of the natural face.
Yeah, you're seeing that a lot. And you guys also provide weight loss treatments. I mean, is that kind of talked about from the beginning? Because I think there's a lot of people that have used GLP-1s or whatever to propel the weight loss journey, but then at some point they start to have the sunken in face. It almost ages them. Are you seeing that too?
Right.
And
Right.
is that so? Is that why there's a combination kind of in your practice?
Yes, I do my weight loss differently than a lot of other people do because they're just kind of more or less listening to the patient and I'm listening to their body. And I've had patients that I've turned away because they want a certain unachievable goal that's just not realistic and they end up going to hurting themselves more than they're helping themselves. I received a patient not too long ago where she was on a GLP-1 and she was on like the highest dose you could possibly get, but she was 5'3" and like 120 pounds.
Jeez.
Why would you be on that high of a dose? And when I boiled it down to and really talked to her, it was a whole mental game. Like she just was so scared that she was going to be big again that she refused to come off of it. And her provider that she was seeing was giving it to her in that sense. But she was in the hospital for UTIs all the time. She was getting kidney stones. And when I pulled her labs, her lab work reflect metabolic issues. And so her provider was really doing her a harm than it was a benefit because she was essentially overdosing her on GLP-1s. And so you got to be careful with all that stuff. You can't just let the patient lose 30 pounds in 1 month. That's not healthy. Your skin has no recoil when you do it that way. And so you need to go about it a different way. I have a goal in mind that I set for my patient, and then I have them set a goal. And then we look to see where we can meet in the middle to achieve it. And hopefully our goals align. But I'm not going to let you lose 30 pounds in 4 weeks. You don't gain it in that time. Why would you lose it in that time? It's not natural. So you've got to do it on a healthy respect.
Yeah. Well, I want to get to kind of a rapid fire because I know that there are so many products that I just think people don't know, the pros and cons. But what are the treatments right now that you're seeing that people are asking about the most?
Full facial balancing post weight loss. That's the big one because I'm using biostimulator filler, something that stimulates collagen and elastin at the same time. It's providing volume within the face. And then I'm redoing those lost fat pads, I guess you could say. where the GLP-1 kind of took it all away. So then their face just feels saggy. So I'm revolumizing the entire face. And that's where I guess the artistry truly comes in, and knowing your tissue and knowing what you're doing and what filler does what with where, because I'm balancing the face as a whole. Now, that can be 4 syringes of filler, that could be 6 syringes of filler. It really just is dependent on the patient and their goals and how much deficit they truly have. But you're plugging in sometimes 5, 6 different kinds of filler because they're going to do different things for different areas.
I do want to address common concerns, budget being one of those. So, with that in mind, can you give us a range if that's the number one problem? Like, can you give us a range of what that might look holistically from weight loss journey, if you're helping them tap into that, to this restorative treatment for the face?
That's really hard because what one patient needs, the other won't. For example, like Botox and stuff like that. Some people, like myself, have a little bit more real estate up here on their forehead. And so they don't have a smaller forehead where they only need, 8, 10 units and call it good. You need a couple rows to achieve the look that you're wanting. And so, again, some people have smaller faces, some people have larger faces. It really is just dependent on them. So it could be anywhere between a couple $100s to a couple thousand. We do offer Cherry, which is kind of like a credit card, but it gives you a certain balance. It's like Klarna or Afterpay, where the interest is super, super low and it only does like a soft credit check.
So there's options if this is something
There's
that you're
options.
looking to consider. In relation to all of this, budget, achieving the goals, whatever they might be, how do you help clients, approach these types of treatments in the most responsible way?
Well, what does that look like to them? It's where communication comes in. What is their end goal versus their budget? Where do we start? Again, that pick out 2 things that bother you. And then if we need to narrow it down to just one and start there, we can start there. It's truly just dependent on the patient.
Let's switch gears and talk a little bit about just the business side for you personally. It sounds like you've had a lot of fulfillment with stories and just being a part of combining the important aspects of patient care with this artistry that you've mentioned so many times. What has building the business in your own vision of practicing care holistically meant to you?
It's meant a lot in the respect of I'm kind of building my brand because I have my own spin that I like to place on my patients, but I garner that from listening to them. I'm able to put my spin of things without having somebody else dictate how I do that because their vision doesn't align with mine. I I'm able to, like, customize that and truly help my patients, I guess, build onto their dream, on their aesthetic version, so to speak.
Yeah. I like that, build on to their dream. Very different than the clinical setting that you were in.
What's night and day. I felt like I had to go back to school when I worked in plastics because even the terminology and how you treated was completely different than how we did it in the OR and ICU. So,
What
gives
have
you a
been
new
some of
respect for it,
Yeah, definitely, and how fast things change.
right?
What have been some of the biggest challenges? So now, here's where you are with the business. You had Beautiful You, and it was just you and what, another esthetician?
Correct. If for me, it was just me for a long time while I was going through my nurse prac school. And then I was able to get an esthetician on with me. And then now I've kind of grown into more. But at the time, it was achievable because I had a friend that was very kind to allow me to use her facility with her while I was going to school and kind of build my clientele. And then as I finished, I was able to grow.
What were some of those early years in building up your clientele? Working on the trust, developing the relationship, and having more people refer you out, which ultimately is, how everyone builds a business.
Right.
What
Yes.
was that like for you? That
The
that
hardest
time?
part was building trust. A lot of people aren't just gonna come to some new injector that they know is a new injector or that they thought was a new injector. I wasn't a new injector, I was just new in the business for owning it side. Those that allowed me to perform service on them, I used word of mouth as a huge deal for me. And then after about 4 to 6 months, everything started kind of growing from there. Building that trust on a level, word of mouth is a powerful thing. If you really dislike something, you're going to speak your mind, especially in the social side of things, social networks. So if you really like something, you're also going to be one of those that provides a little bit more to your people out there as well. Same respect. You boast about it. So
Yeah.
word of mouth is a powerful thing.
If you had advice to another aspiring esthetician coming in, what would you say are the top 3 things that they should do in order to build trust with the client and grow word of mouth? What would your advice to them be?
Communication and listening. That's the biggest. Training. I'm going to trainings every month, if not a couple times a month or whatever it is, whether I'm physically going to class or I'm taking one online. This is something that is ever evolving and changing. It never remains stagnant. So I'm constantly in some type of classroom learning every month, different changes that come, um, and applying that in practice as well. The other one is to kind of experience it for yourself so that you can apply that with your patient. How do you know something's going to work if you've never experienced it? Everything that I've done, I do in some respect on myself because I want to know, does it work? Am I just saying it works and hoping for the best, or does it legitimately work? And so most of everything that I offer, I've tried in some capacity. Or somebody I know, I've done it on a family member or a friend before I've ever offered it to the public because I want my word to mean something. I don't want to say it does something and then it doesn't. Now, obviously, there are different factors that come into play, whether they work for somebody versus not somebody else. But I want to know, does it truly, genuinely work?
I love that you do that. I think that that's a differentiator, and in any business, not just yours. If you're not willing to put yourself in your own services, then how can you be confident to sell those services to someone else? Which again, so back to how do you grow a business? You have to have positive word of mouth that this is going to do what you say it's going to do. But tell me, through that process, were there some treatments or some things that surprised you and the opposite of that? Were there some things that you tried that you thought, "No way am I putting this out?"
I've never had anything bad happen to myself. Most of what I brought in, I researched heavily before I brought it in, but then confirmed whether or not it worked with, myself as the patient or my husband. God bless my poor husband. He has been, yeah, he's been amazing though. And same thing for him. I've researched it heavily before I've offered it to him. And everything for him has turned out really great too. So I would say, "Hey, honey, I need you to come by and get something for me." And then I would just put him in the chair. Or I'm having a training where I'm training somebody. I need you to come in and then just put him in the chair. He was always my little guinea pig. And he has a good attitude about it. He's great.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about growth behind the scenes. So, what we can see is that Beautiful You has now expanded. So, for those in Amarillo that don't know or have not heard, Beautiful You has now joined with Bella Luna. So, Bella Luna by Beautiful You is the current name. Tell us about how that evolved. How did you grow from single practitioner, small, having a couple of other estheticians and growing, scaling to now this big merger?
Right. It just kind of came about, actually. It just landed in both of our laps, I think. We had a friend that knew each of us. And I guess just over the years of listening to what our goals long term were, ended up aligning and she introduced us. And I think I had some good ideas for Jahan, and Jahan provided great ideas for me. And we just clicked. So, this partnership I'm super excited about with her. She's amazing. I feel like she and I are like soul sisters on a whole other level because we kind of think alike, and she's incredibly talented in her craft as well. And so I've learned a lot from her, and I feel like I've taught her a couple things. And it's really great when you can bounce ideas off of each other, and how I approach things versus how she approaches things are a little bit different, but the outcome comes out to generally about the same. But I've really enjoyed working with her. She's been great, just learning from her. And then I think vice versa. I can't speak for her, but she seems to be excited as well.
Yeah. Describe what the two of you are building together.
Just a place of, I guess, craftsmanship, so to speak. We want to be able to provide an overall holistic approach for our patients. So, hormone replacement therapy has been a big one for some of her older clients, whereas I would had more of the younger generation. And so merging the two has really allowed us to help each other's clients because we can again customize all of that specific to the patient. And she didn't offer hormone replacement therapy. That's something that I brought in and then kind of like goes in with that. The O shot and the P shot for men and women kind of goes in hand with the hormone replacement therapy as well. So we just kind of built onto each other's platform.
The way that you're describing this, Cass, it's interesting to me because when you say holistic health, and I think, at least in my mind, my perception of aesthetics was only neurotoxins and fillers. I didn't realize that it had branched out to so much more. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, how many different services intermingle or could complement one another. But really, if you're approaching it in a, like, as you've shared already, is like, tell me a little bit about you. What is your life about? What are you interested in doing? Then you guys as a unit have the ability to offer not just the physical aspects, but internal aspects that make that complete. And that's so cool. It seems less complicated that way when you're approaching it with a conversation of what is the outcome that you're building toward.
When you feel good as a whole, then it changes your life. And it may seem so small or cliche, but it's really not. I'm living testimony to that. So I feel like I look younger now at 40 than I did at 25. So I look good. I feel good. That's kind of one of those that's ventured into just my overall emotional happiness.
What excites you the most right now? The things that are ahead between the two of you and this expansion?
Well, the ability to be truly advanced, result driven within our community while also keeping it personalized, patient focused experience. That's kind of what I want to be known for. One of the biggest game changers I think that we're adding this season is we just purchased the new Cyton Tribrid laser platform. It's a halo laser, but its technology is incredible because it allows you to really customize the treatments on multiple levels of the skin at the same time. So it's doing 3 treatments all at once, helping to address pigmentation, texture, acne scarring, fine lines, sun damage, redness, collagen stimulation, and overall skin rejuvenation. You're not having to do multiple treatments, several sessions apart. You're doing it all at once. And so I'm excited about continuing to expand our wellness and aesthetic offering in an intentional way.
Tell us a little bit more about that laser. So what is the difference between that and the laser treatments that exist pretty much in anywhere right now in terms of duration? Like, how many sessions before you see improvement?
Well, normally you would do a couple different sessions spaced in between each other. This one allows you to do it all at once. Your recovery time is dependent on how far you want to go with it. It can be one that's, a couple days worth because you're not going as deep, or you can go really deep to kind of help with the texture and the fine lines and the pigmentations and all that stuff and doing ablative techniques along with it, just at more of an advanced resurfacing.
And what does recovery look like days after treatment? What does it look like for the average person?
Average is anywhere between 5 to 7 days, but if you want to go deeper, obviously there's a longer downtime. So if you're doing anything that's an ablative aspect of it, then you're going to have a longer downtime. And that's usually a couple weeks.
And what are some of those symptoms within that time period?
You just need to keep it hydrated because you're essentially kind of taking off that top layer of skin. Redness, puffiness, swelling, what they call mins, which is kind of like that scab filling, but it's not really a scab, but it's kind of like that scab filling sloughing off over a course of a few days.
So, small price to pay for the results. What have the results been?
Man, the results are incredible. Like, I cannot wait to get my hands on it for myself. Now, our laser technician, Cheryl, she does amazing work and she has so many years of experience under her belt for all of that. And so she and I together, as well as Jahan, I think is going to really progress that thing forward into a whole different capacity. I have a couple of trainings lined up with some physicians that are known for using that laser. They don't work for Cyton, but They are known for using that laser and kind of customizing it. And so I have a couple of trainings lined up this year with them to kind of hone in on this specific laser since it's so new.
So obviously, the beauty component is one outcome, but it is actually this laser is actually restoring the health of the skin, right?
Correct. It's doing a full resurfacing and rejuvenation.
And then the lasting impact of that, what have you seen so far?
But some patients, they only need one treatment and it looks great. And some patients need a couple. It really is just dependent on how they want to go. Do they want to do it in baby steps? Do they want to crawl, walk, or run?
This improves texture, but also fine lines and that stuff. So is this kind of the new wave of not necessarily replacing toxin, but could it?
No, but if you're wanting somebody who's wanting to do a more natural approach, this is a more natural approach. Somebody who doesn't want to get into toxin or filler, this will allow them to rejuvenate their skin and face without getting into any of that. Toxin helps when you're in that stage of those two muscles meeting each other. It increases collagen breakdown. And so if you're providing toxin, you're stopping the breakdown from happening a little bit more. So if you're doing both, then I mean, you're really kind of preventing and slowing down that aging process. But for somebody who doesn't want to do neurotoxin or anything like that, this kind of helps them to just resurface all of that and then provide more of a youthful glow. I mean, the glow afterwards is so pretty.
In terms of years, which I think is what every woman is interested in, what do patients comment? Like how many years do they say that they shave off what they are, off of the birthdays that they've had?
Depends on how aggressive they want to go. Some of them, it's shaved off a good 5, 10 years. And so the results on this laser, they're looking spectacular. I cannot wait to dive way deep into it.
So is that here and available right now?
We should be getting this laser here within the next couple of weeks. We have a couple of training sessions with the company, and then I'll make a post online or something like that on socials.
So stay tuned is what you're telling us.
Stay tuned.
All right, Kazi, this is one question that we ask every guest, but in the moment right now, building business, building relationships, continuing to offer new services and expand, what is the work that still feels unfinished for you personally?
What is the work that feels unfinished for me? I think it will always feel unfinished just because it's ever changing and evolving. And so I just always, if I do something, I want to be really good at it. I don't want to do something just kind of halfway. I want to do it at its full capacity. And so that's why I think I attend all these different classes and trainings every month is so that I can continue to stay on top of my game and offer what's best for my patients. So it's never at a standstill. It's continually growing and going.
Okay, final question that we wrap up our segments with, and this is kind of a hypothetical scenario, so just go with me here for a second. And I want you to think in terms of, entrepreneurship, just building a business, building your own personal vision. But in this scenario, let's just say you've accomplished everything that as an artist and esthetician that you've wanted to. You've changed people's lives from the inside out, literally. And you, in this scenario, you can't have any record of those wins. We don't get to see the notes that patients have left you behind. We don't get to see your social media. We don't get to hear testaments of your work. But what you do get to leave behind would be three pieces of advice for another person like yourself who is aspiring to create their own vision and create their own business or brand. What would your three words of wisdom or three pieces of advice be to them?
Continue to learn, listen to your patients, and don't ever get too big for your britches. So be humble, This, I will say, kind of going into all this has kept me in a different mindset, and I'm very humbled by a lot of different things. Constantly growing.
Well, for everyone, thank you for tuning into this episode of Unfinished Business. We will definitely be linking Cassandra's information in the show notes, as well as how you can connect with Bella Luna by Beautiful You. If you're interested in these treatments or have any questions, I'm sure Cassandra and her team would be happy to take them and walk you through a consultation. Cassandra, any other parting words?
I'm just incredibly blessed for the amount of trust that people have given me, and I'm so excited to kind of learn and grow in the aesthetic world. Like it's been truly amazing. Like I said, very humbled, very thankful. I have such a great team. My girls are absolutely amazing, every single one of them. So can't say I'm unhappy about that.
I love that. It definitely makes business more fun. So
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in and thank you for being here. Cassandra, I want to acknowledge you for just the approach that you take with your patients, me being one of them. I can
Oh, thank
attest
you.
to the level of care that you show and the time that you take with people. I was definitely coming in, have been one of those skeptics or just been a little nervous. And every time you've made it very comfortable for me personally. So I know if you do that with me, you do that with others. But thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
showing up the way you do.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been amazing. I'm
Likewise.
absolutely in love with this journey.
Yeah, same. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Okay.